Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Composer of the Month. My name is Nina Ayoruk, and I'm the host. I am very excited to announce that this is episode 11 and that our Composer of the Month is Jessi Harvey. Now, I'll be reading excerpts from their biography. Jessi, also known as George Harvey, is a Montana-born, Puget Sound-based freelance composer and teacher. Works are rooted in a passion for bringing together scientific and musical audiences, while integrating social curiosity, humor, and a love of knowledge. Performed across North and South America, as well as Europe, Jessi's music has been described by Seattle Magazine as full of surprises and consistently attention-holding. Jessi's work, by the nature of our conversation, won first place at the 2020 Darkwater Women in Music Festival. They were an artist in residence at the Rensing Center 2021, Open Air in 2022, and the Denver Botanic Gardens Landline Residency in 2022. And recent projects have focused on long-term collaboration with scientific organizations, artists and ensembles, and community nonprofits. This video in particular will be featuring a conversation about Jessi's work called The Periodic Table. Jessi received the Seattle Symphony Orchestra's Community Engagement Fund, Octave 9 Artist in Residence, for performance of this work. And the West Coast premiere of this piece will be performed by Jessica Andrews Hall on May 8th, 2026. You can purchase tickets to this event um, on the Seattle Symphony website. And if you would like to learn more about the Periodic Table project, I will add Jessi's website to the description where they have more information about their piece. And now let's hear from Jessi. Hi, Jessi. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Thanks
Hi.
for having me.
Well, I'm really excited to learn more about your music. And I would like to know, how did it come about that your music is inspired by science and nature? What got you into this?
I grew up in rural Montana, so I grew up in nature, and I've always been kind of interested in learning, but the combination of the music and science started pretty gradually. I didn't begin composing until college, and it started out pretty normal, standard theme and variations, canons, sonatas, whatever. And then we got to art songs, and I wrote three about a story about a squirrel. So I thought it was funny, and I was like, "Cool, let's continue doing that." And then as kind of the nature themes and science themes became more prevalent, I really wanted to tie the music with its subject more. So then I started really researching things, and it kind of evolved from there. So now, like, I've been very lucky to have kind of very active collaborations with different scientists or research organizations and actually like get the data as it's being discovered, which has been really, really fun.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because science is something that's constantly evolving as well. There's so much
Hmm.
new research being done, and I feel like together with music, it just blends together so well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
they're pretty complementary. I mean, they both have the senses of time. They have the interactions between the different like parts of the component parts, and they play with balance and motion. So yeah, it's really fun to play with those ideas.
So, another thing that I think inspires a lot of composers' music is where they live, and maybe the nature in Seattle inspires you as well. And so I was just wondering, how does maybe even Washington State influence your compositions?
Yeah, I probably as in a general sense, I really love living here and I because of the water. I'm a big I just themes of water show up a lot in different works. And Washington State, with different commissions, I've gotten to explore different features of Washington State. So my piece for Piano Song for a Harbor is actually structured by the semi-diurnal tides of the Puget Sound. 10,000 Years of Rumbling is literally the translation of the last 10,000 years of eruption history for Washington's active volcanoes. And recently, active geology looked at major fossil finds in Washington. So, like the giant sloth and a type of whale, which was a bridge to baleen whales. And so that's been that's been really fun.
Wow, that's so interesting. Definitely a lot of places here that can inspire work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also wanted to learn more about your composition, the periodic table. So, what inspired you to write this piece, and how did you make use of the piano's range and tone and qualities when composing each movement?
Yeah, this is a hefty work. But it's the periodic table is the musical recreation of a book by Primo Levi, which has the same name. And Primo Levi was a chemist, an author, and Holocaust survivor. And this book takes stories from his life, framed by different elements of the periodic table. And it goes all the way from his childhood and pre war years to during the war, and then his adulthood in post war. And I discovered this book in my freshman college seminar class which was taught by Nicholas Petruno. And he was just one of those professors where he was just a born educator, super passionate, really inspired passion in his students, and just like an overall just very amazing human being. And he passed away in late or mid 2020, and I really wanted to do something for him, and this was the first kind of the idea which struck me. So I contacted the family and the Italian department and was like, I have this idea of turning this book into music, and got the thumbs up, and so wrote it. um, and I am a big structural person, compositionally speaking. Like, I spend almost as much time, if not more, on structure than the actual writing process. So when I'm looking at each of the individual movements, I'm kind of looking at, okay, what captures the story and mood of each movement, as well as what balances as the whole. And so that's when, like, I'm really planning out, here's the range I'm looking for, here's the tone quality I'm looking for. So, like, in the periodic table, there's like these four stories which are interspersed, which are like the first that Levy wrote, and it goes lead, mercury, sulfur, and then titanium. So I ended up writing them as a series of variations, because lead is a very heavy story. It's very sloggy. It's a heavy element. And so it started very, very deep in the bass, and each movement gets a little higher in the range until titanium, which is a very kind of fairy tale type chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned structure. I think that's absolutely so important to a piece. Structure is like everything that that makes a piece the way it is.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, so are there any other structures that you like to use in your compositions?
Oh, that's a good question. I love counterpoint.
Mhm.
Just I'm not very strict about it, but I like the conversational aspect of it because you can play with a lot of ideas of combination, which, kind of going back to the nature idea, is really helpful when looking at different elements of research. Um, but yeah, a lot of times I let the structure of the research or what I'm looking at guide the structure of the piece. So, like in my rhino beetle piece, it ended up being like three movements because there's like three major parts of the mating process. And then within each movement, it kind of brings the different aspects of that process to life. So, um, yeah, it's sometimes we use very, very classical forms, and sometimes it's just complete complete following what the research is doing.
Yeah. And I also wanted to talk about like how you create your scores because I looked at some of them. You know, you use a lot of visual elements in them. So I was just wondering, how do you decide when to use these? You know, what kind of messages do you want to convey?
Yeah, that actually it kind of depends on who I'm working with. A lot of times if I'm like doing a collaboration or a commission for someone, we start out with a conversation about like, okay, what are you looking for in a piece? What would be really fun? And I've worked with amazing improvisers. So they're like, okay, I'd like to explore this. And I'd like that to do these techniques and maybe play with this combination of ideas. And sometimes the best way to just like to convey that is through non-traditional notation. And it's also something I kind of go in ebbs and flows with. So I'll do like a whole spree of pieces which are very graphic and have pictures and very kind of ridiculous looking, like my piece about potatoes, which is just quite the score if you're looking at it. And then I'll go back and do very just basic traditional notation for a while. And then it's kind of fun to see how my thinking about things have evolved when I come back to more graphic notation or non-traditional notation.
Performers, you usually, as I understood, you work with the performers as they're working on the piece, and you're kind of allowing them to use these non-traditional techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if I know who I'm working with beforehand, it just kind of depends on the project. Or if I'm working throughout like the rehearsal process, then you can be a little bit more tailored to the performer and what they're exploring. And then, sometimes if you don't have that time and you have a short rehearsal time, then it's like, nope, we're just going to write the dots on the lines and have varied instructions, and that's going to be great.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Connecting to like some broader themes, of inspiration. What are some things that inspire your music, or melodies or rhythms for you? Aside from what you've just told before about the nature and science.
Um, hmm. Well, besides nature and science, oh, I use words a lot.
Mhm.
I'll spell things out. Probably the most ridiculous example is in one movement of uh what was it? Not the multiverse. It was the Vision Cow Returns. Is I just spelled out the words beaver dam over and over. So it was just like beaver dam, beaver dam, but it was like fully spelled out. And actually I did a similar thing in the periodic table in the chapter on chromium, which is where Levi is kind of regaining his identity, and I basically spell out his name in a kind of quasi-fugal form.
Oh, yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, definitely like the use of words is it's super important in pieces and it's like a really cool aspect of them. It's like a secret message inside a piece. So that's really cool. And since we returned to the periodic table, I was just wondering, has any other literature or art inspired any of your other compositions?
Yeah, a lot. I read a lot, and sometimes I'll get a idea for a piece just from reading, or like in the case of active geology, that was based on different chapters of the book by Elizabeth Nesbit and David Williams called Spirit Wells and Sloth Tales. And then one of the movements from Shades of Colorado, which I wrote for the Denver Botanic Gardens at a residency there, was about the Rocky Mountain locust. And Jeffrey Lockwood wrote this amazing book just called Locust, and very much inspired by that his takeaways, especially kind of at the last chapter, where he's kind of reflecting on its extinction and kind of the unknown repercussions of it.
Mhm. Yeah, any books you've been enjoying recently or reading?
Oh yeah, I'm reading a book called So Many Books, which is a translation name. I think the last name is Zaid, Z-A-I-D. But it's a book about books, which is always quite a fun time. And I just finished a book called All the Knowledge in the World, which is about the history of encyclopedias.
So I kind of wanted to return to the talk about nature and how things are changing in the environment right now. Because global warming is real, climate change is real, and I just wanted to know what do you hope listeners carry away with them after listening to your music or learning about your music?
Yeah, this is always the difficult question is like really ultimately it comes back down to like I would love the listener to take away a sense of curiosity, just to be more open to the world, to listen to other people's stories, to experience data and research in a different way, and just don't be afraid to ask questions, and then just see what the answers are. And there's so much about this world that we don't know, whether it be like individually or kind of as a collective with humanity. So stay curious. That's really my ultimate goal.
Yeah, thank you so much. Those are really powerful words. And I think it's so important to stay curious in this world now. Um, Thank you so much for this, for your time. And I really enjoyed learning about your music, and I look forward to the performance on May 8th.
Yeah, thank
So,
you.
yeah.